Hey everybody, Curly Chronicles here, and I am finally back. The moment you all have been waiting for. You can see by the title, we're making kimchi today. I was trying to get to this recipe and this process, because it's a process, but I kept like not having an ingredient. I was missing a pear. I ran out of ginger. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to keep my Napa cabbage for as long as I could. And I just, everything that could have happened, Murphy's Law, everything that could go bad happened. But finally we're here and we are going to be making some kimchi today. There are a ton of recipes on YouTube and it can be really intimidating. You start like looking around for a recipe, you find one and then you're like, okay, let me look at another couple ones just to see. And then the second recipe is drastically different from the first recipe. And then the third one is just like, I was like, none of these are alike. How am I supposed to know which one? I know, it's very, very intimidating at first, but it is a very fun process of making kimchi because it's just really interesting. It's really interesting. There's so many flavors. It's tangy. It's got that tangy, fizzy sort of kind of fermented goodness to it. I love kimchi. So when I started to make it on my own, I was like, this is a keeper. Now I'm going to be sharing some channels with you that are of folks who I have followed for quite some time. I've tried a recipe or two of theirs, and so they're legit and I will not steer you wrong. So you can definitely find links for all the people that I mentioned below, and you can kind of go very easy recipe, or you can go more advanced if you really want a fun challenge. So first I'm going to go through what you are going to need to make your kimchi, because there is nothing worse than going, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make this thinking you have everything on hand. You don't, you probably don't. I didn't. And I mean, I've been making kimchi for a while now and I still was like, oh, dang, I forgot the ginger. Shout out to the Caribbean market down the street, because they always have plantains, ginger, anything that I may need for my spice cabinet, it's in there. And their plantains are usually pretty good. So I just prefer to go there than supermarkets that don't care about plantains that much. It's just better. So I went over and got some ginger last night, and I was just like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't have to go super far. They're really close to me, which is really nice. So let's get started with all the ingredients that you're going to need in order to make some kimchi, and then we will go through a little bit more about the process and then get started. This is the star of kimchi, Napa cabbage. So the recipe we're going to be using calls for a head of Napa cabbage. It doesn't have to be this big. It can be like, this size. It doesn't have to be. And that's the beauty of the recipe that we're following, which is by Emmymade. I just think her channel is super cool. Lovely channel. So she makes an easy kimchi. And fun fact, her kimchi recipe is a rendition, I guess, so to speak, of the queen of Korean cuisine, Maangchi, who also makes kimchi. Maangchi's recipe looks amazing and it's a little bit more involved. So you got to be very much up for the challenge. If you want a simple, easy version, I would say go with Emmymade, because it only calls for one head of cabbage. And oftentimes people make large batches of kimchi, so you're looking at pounds and pounds of Napa cabbage. But this one, all you need is one head of cabbage, one medium-sized carrot, half of a pear. You don't need the full thing, but you're going to need a pear. One yellow onion, some cloves of garlic, about a 1/2-inch piece of ginger, kosher salt, and sugar, glutinous rice flour. It has to be gluten, not just rice flour, glutinous rice flour. Red pepper flakes. These are Korean red pepper flakes. You will get these on Amazon, or if you're in a metro area, you can find them at your Korean market. If you don't have these in there, nobody's gonna believe it's kimchi. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules, but that's just the way it is. I think those are all the ingredients. Let me double check. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chop up our cabbage into 2-inch or so pieces. They're kind of bite-sized pieces. There are two different types of kimchi. There's the traditional version where you would chop this in half. You would kind of cut down the center and you break it into 2 halves. And that is like the traditional style, OG style. And then there's the easy kimchi. I want to say the names are Maangchi Kimchi and Tong Kimchi, if I'm correct. I hope I'm right. And we're gonna make the easy kimchi because it's more informal, easy to just serve it. You know, you can pull it out of the jar. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. We're gonna make easy kimchi. So first we're gonna chop up our Napa cabbage, and then we're going to thinly slice our carrot, and then we're gonna put those in some salted water and cover them for about 1.5 to 2 hours. So let's go ahead and do that part now, and then we'll get to the next step in about 1.5 hours or so. Kind of like this. See that? Yeah. Okay, so we have chopped up our cabbage. We thinly sliced, or as thinly as we could, sliced up the carrot. I added a little bit more carrot because my Napa cabbage head was pretty big, so I added a little bit more. And again, this is a pretty forgiving recipe. If you want to add a little bit more, totally okay. So now that we have that in here, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of kosher sea salt, and I have that here. You're probably thinking, oh my God, what are you doing with all that salt? The salt draws the water out of the cabbage. And so this will help make it a little bit more pliable, and it will pull that water out before we get to the next step. We'll be draining all of this water off. So I know it sounds crazy, but don't worry. I'm gonna fill this bowl with water, just enough to kind of cover the cabbage, and I might even put a bowl or maybe like a plate on top just to kind of hold it down so it doesn't start to float or anything, but you just want to cover it and let it sit, and then the salt will kind of do its thing. So I'm going to do that, and then I will be back in about 1.5 hours and we'll get to the next step. Okay folks, it's been about 2 hours or so, and the Napa cabbage as well as the carrot has been soaking in the salted water. We're going to drain that, and then we're going to work on the rice. It's like a slurry, kind of rice paste, rice slurry, and then we're going to work on the sauce. So let's get going, and yes, we are one step closer. All right, so now we are going to be making the rice flour slurry rice paste concoction. You need 1/2 cup of water, and you need 1.5 tablespoons of glutinous rice flour. So before you even turn the heat on, this is very important. Emmy tells you this in her recipe. You mix them together with a whisk so that you can thoroughly mix it. You don't want any lumps. So do not turn on the fire. Do not turn on any heat. Don't make that mistake. So you're just gonna whisk it together. It's just water. It looks like, you know, like a white colored water. But it's gonna get nice and sticky, and that's gonna be that paste. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna start heating this up, and once we get to that next stage, I'll show you what it looks like. But I think if you especially if you've never made kimchi, but even if you have, follow the recipe along, watch the video, and just follow it along to a T, and you will be golden. So I will be back once this starts to bubble up. I'm just gonna turn it on to medium, and you have to really like mix it as you go. You don't want it to burn, so just make sure you are paying attention for this step. Don't be on your phone doing too much. Okay, it's starting to thicken up. And when it starts to get to a gel-like consistency, that's when you want to add the sugar, and you want to keep stirring. As you can see, it looks like jelly now. And you can always lift it off the fire if you feel like it's getting a little bit too hot. And if you are cooking on like a gas stove or gas oven, gas cooktop, gas stove, then this will go much faster for you. But if you're on an electric stove like I am, then it may take a little bit longer. So just keep that in mind. A lot of things are electric in the South, I found, which is okay. I wasn't cool with this at first. I was like, I need fire, but I have been just fine. The learning curve is just fine. I need to stop being a baby. And so they said about 3 minutes of stirring just to make sure that the sugar is incorporated. I'm lifting it off the fire because I just don't want to burn it, and then I'll put it back down. Keep going. I switched to a baby whisk because it's just a little bit easier to work with. But yeah, once it kind of gets to this consistency here, you're good. And then you have to let it cool. So I feel like it's pretty good. Make sure I don't feel any granules of sugar in there. All right, next steps. I know you can't see my face right now. That's not important because I want you to see all of this. But let me tell you the two things that are going to be needed for this next step that are going to make life a little bit easier. A grater. They have graters for vegetables and stuff, but I don't have that one, but a regular grater is just fine if you have one. And if you have a garlic press, it's helpful. If you don't, you just, dice it up. You can kind of mince it and dice it up. But if you have one, it will go a lot faster because you have 5 cloves that you need to get through. You're going to grate half of a small yellow onion. I realized this onion really wasn't that yellow. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't think it's yellow. I think it's in between yellow and white. It's not quite white. Sort of yellow, but sort of not. Next, we're gonna grate a 1-inch piece of ginger. This is almost an inch piece. This is sort of kind of, this will do. Oh, my eyes. You're only putting a little bit in here, but when you ferment stuff, oh my God, it gets super strong. So if you feel like you don't have enough for some reason, you probably do, and you do not want to overdo it because it'll just be strong. It's not gonna be bad, it's just gonna be strong. And I don't know how strong you like, some of your spices, but be careful. Next is the half of a pear. I kind of took out the center piece that kind of has the seeds, the clustered seeds in it. So now we're gonna do that. Next, we are adding, you're supposed to get 2 green onions, just the green parts. And these are from outside. These have been growing. Y'all probably remember that I showed you those. I keep them kind of big because I want to be able to make sure I get some bites in every bit, so I kind of keep them kind of large. I keep them kind of big. Actually, I think I want to do a lot of big parts, and then I want to take just a small amount and then make those smaller so they mix in. Yes, somebody wants to eat. Somebody is announcing themselves, and you know, I'm just supposed to come to her every beck and call. That's how we do this. Okay. Go that way. All right. Let's see if I can. Ooh, it is gelatinous. Got a little bit more. I can kind of get out. Half a cup of. Oh wait a minute, I'm missing something. The liquid first. 2 tablespoons of either fish sauce or soy sauce if you want to make this vegan-fied. I'm going to use this fish sauce because I've had it for a while. Papas, please. So it's 1. Fish sauce smells really funky, but it is one of the most amazing ingredients ever. And it will make your ramen poppin', and it just makes lots of things 10 times better. So I'm not even, okay, add the liquid in there. I'm not even mad at it. Now we're gonna add our half a cup of red pepper flakes. I'm gonna do almost all of it, but this stuff gets hot. And I mean, I like spicy, but woo, Korean spicy is a different kind of spicy. And if you're not ready, for it. Where's the camera? It's crazy. It will get you. So, you can always like mix this up and kind of add a little bit more as you go. You can taste this. See if you want a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. Again, very forgiving. I don't know if I want to add the full amount because I know one time I did exactly what they told me to do, and I was like, woo! So we are going to proceed with caution here. I'm not worthy. All right, I think this is pretty good. I feel pretty good about this. It's really red, rich in color. And now I'm gonna transfer some things over this way so I can start to mix in the kimchi sauce with the Napa cabbage and carrot. Okay, now the moment we've been waiting for. We are going to put the sauce, the love sauce as Emmy called it, in, and we're gonna massage everything together, kind of mix it in. Now, it's good to wear gloves because it gets pretty aromatic, and if you don't want your hands to smell like onion and garlic and ginger and fish sauce, it's a good idea. So I actually have special gloves that you use for your kimchi making, which I think is pretty genius. And while we're at it, shout out to all the Koreans out there. Thank y'all for this recipe, because I freaking love kimchi. I think it is delicious. It is just so delicious. I can eat it almost any day of the week. I never want to get tired of it, but it is so good. So shout out to y'all. So now we're just going to kind of like, gently massage everything together. And you're just going to get everything incorporated with the sauce. So let's try. It's good. Perfect amount of spice to it. I didn't need the tiny bit of red pepper flakes. I used to love spicy foods, but woo, as I get older, I'm like, I can't have super spicy, but the fermented spicy, I am with it. Just the right amount. Let's do the big jar first. So let's just start packing this in. And as I'm able to start really packing this down. I'm gonna really press it down so that I can get out any air bubbles. There we go. So you want to press, let's see if I can show you. You want to really press down so the juices start to build on top. So you just want to pack and press, continue to squeeze, and as you can see, it's alive. Pressing down, and as I press down, you're getting all the little air pockets out. If you check on your kimchi as it's sitting and fermenting on the countertop, check on. Yep, I'm gonna have a baby jar of kimchi. This is adorable. This is very adorable. All right. There. I'm gonna pour this in here. All right, so now we have packed our kimchi into our containers, and I put them on this plate because as they ferment, these jars will bubble over, most likely, the ones that are to the top. Definitely this one. This big one, yeah, definitely. The other ones might, maybe not. The only one that's not going to bubble over is the baby kimchi. So you're gonna let this sit on a countertop in your kitchen. So you're gonna let this sit on a countertop in your kitchen for about 24 to 48 hours. And then it will be ready. You can kind of put it in the fridge. So between now and that 48-hour period of time, you will want to kind of just check on it, take the lid off, make sure that you push the vegetables back under the brine because they will kind of puff up a little bit. So that's it. Wasn't too bad, right? I mean, there are some steps to it, but you know how you go to a restaurant and you're like, dang, how come when I make this, it doesn't taste as great? It's because there's a lot of steps that you just aren't willing to take because we want that extra time, and you just have it simple. But then when you go there and you get it, you're like, wow, this is amazing. So I hope that this was kind of a fun little recipe, fun little project. Shout out to Emmymade because this is the recipe that I tried and I was just like, yes, I can do this. So I absolutely love this recipe, love making it. The kimchi is a staple in my household. I get asked like, are you making some more kimchi soon? I'm like, yes, I am. So I hope you all enjoy. Okay, folks, so we're back and it's been 48 hours since the kimchi has been fermenting on the kitchen counter. It's now ready. And I did taste it. It's delicious. So we're all done. I basically kind of screwed on my lids, and then I rinsed them under the sink because they will overflow a little bit. The juice, the liquid will kind of come over the top. So I just ran them under some water, secured my lids, and now these will be going into the refrigerator. And kimchi keeps for a very long time, so you should be pretty good. I think the longest that I've kept kimchi in the refrigerator was maybe a month, and that's just because it's not gonna last that long. Like that was actually a long time for me because we go through it, especially at Dana. I gotta watch Dana. She goes through the kimchi. I made extra for her. So but yeah, we're all done. Two things I wanted to point out. My kimchi has a nice level of spice to it, but if you are someone who's a little bit more sensitive, I would say use a little less than a half a cup of red pepper flakes. You might even want to go with a fourth of a cup if you're ultra sensitive. So just keep that in mind. And the other thing, I went ahead and was like, yeah, I follow directions. I follow recipes to a T. Yeah, I forgot to peel the pear. So it does call for that in the recipe to peel the pear. It's not a big deal if you don't, but it did mention that and I was like, oh, whoops. So I just wanted to point that out as well. But you know, I see the skin as the holder of the nutrients. So I don't mind it too much. If I forget, I'm like, it's okay, not a big deal. But I just wanted to make a note of it. So that is the end. I hope you enjoyed this little video. definitely check out Emmymade's recipe. It is going to be linked down below. This is just one of my favorite things to make. So really grateful that I came across her video and learned something about the kimchi making experience. So check it out, and you may want to pause if you follow along. It can go pretty quickly. It's not a long video, so that's another plus too. It's not very long and drawn out. It's very quick and to the point, and you can pause as you go just to make sure you're doing everything correctly. So I hope you enjoyed. Next, I'm going to be talking about sourdough. Bread. Oh, sourdough bread, sourdough pizza. I do all of that. I love it. It's delicious, and I'm going to share my favorite recipes that I have stumbled upon. I have looked at a lot of recipes on sourdough, so a lot of research has been done, and I found the easiest, simplest, and very enjoyable recipe that I can kind of follow along. So I'm going to share that with y'all soon, and I'll also be talking about sourdough starters. Because I did create mine from scratch. It's not hard to do. It can be a little interesting. Sometimes the learning curve is a little annoying at first when you're like, am I doing this right? Am I creating something, or is this just like a hot mess? I don't know. So I will be talking about that soon. But in the meantime, get in the kitchen, make some kimchi, have fun with it. And if Emmy happens to see my video, thank you for putting that video out. I really appreciate it. And that was a great recipe, super easy, and it is one of my faves. So that's it. Talk to y'all soon. Have a good rest of your day.